We would love to hear a song and then meet the band.
Sure. Let's try this one. 1, 2, 3. Uh-huh. I wake up in the morning at 6 o'clock. They say there may be rain, but the sun is hot. I wish I had some time just to kill today, and I wish I had a dime for every bill I got to pay. Some days you lose, you win, and the water's as high as the times you're in. So I jump back in where I learned to swim, try to keep my head above it the best I can. That's why here I am, waiting for this storm to pass me by. Pass me by. That's the sound of sunshine coming down, coming down. That's the sound of sunshine coming down, coming down, down, down. Hey, 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 hey. 1, 2, put your hands together. I saw my friend Bobby, said, what's up, man? You got a little work or 20 to lend? I opened up my hand, he said, I'm glad to see they could take away my job, but not my friends, you see. Here I am, waiting for this storm to pass me by, pass me by. That's the sound of sunshine coming down, coming down. That's the sound of sunshine coming down. Yo, yo, here we go. I wanna go where the summer never ends, with my guitar on the beach there with all my friends. The sun's so hot and the waves in motion, and everything smells like suntan lotion. The ocean and the girl so sweet. So kick off your shoes and relax your feet. They say that miracles are never ceasing. Every single soul needs a little releasing. Stereo bumping till the sun goes down. I only wanna hear that sound. That's the sound of sunshine coming down, coming down. That's the sound of sunshine coming down. Play that thing, Jay. Here we go now. That's the sound of sunshine coming down. Break it on down now, Jay. Here we go, y'all. You're the one I wanna be with when the sun goes down. You're the one I wanna be with when the sun goes down. You're the one I wanna be with when the sun goes down. You're the one I wanna be with when the sun goes. That's the sound of sunshine, of sunshine coming down, coming down, 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 down. That's the sound, that's the sound of sunshine coming down, coming down, down, down. Hey, 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 yeah, yeah. Hey, 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 hey. One more time, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, 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 hey. When the sun goes down. Ow!
Kingdom family, what's up? What's up, what's up, what's up? Oh my gosh, oops. I am so grateful to be here with you all. What an absolute gift it is. We are here with the sound of sunshine welcoming us home to ourselves. And so I'm super grateful, and you'll know in a minute why I opened up with that song and why it's actually such a special song for us to open up with. But before we even get there, we have so much that we want to dig into. So if this is your first time ever coming to the kingdom, I want you to type in the words first time into the chat box right now. Type in the words first time into the chat box right now so that we know that this is your first time. We're almost at 1 year strong here at the kingdom, which is absolutely incredible. And so many of you have been coming every single week. I have something really special planned for our 1 year anniversary. And I'm just so thankful and so grateful to have all of you here. So you'll see our community will welcome you. I'm coming in from Bali right now. It's nighttime here in Bali, in Indonesia. And let's begin. So as we begin each and every one of our sessions of the kingdom, we always start with our belief statements. And we're coming together here to thrive as a collective because with so much going on in the world right now, so much trying to divide us, this is what we believe. We believe here at the kingdom that all beliefs are welcome here. We believe that all biologies are welcome here. You can come as you are. We believe in the power of music to open our hearts and our minds, which is why I opened up with the sound of sunshine. And you'll see more about that in a moment. And we believe here at the kingdom that wisdom can come from many places. And so sometimes I'll use religious text, sometimes I'll use spiritual text, sometimes I won't use anything spiritual at all, and we'll talk about concepts. But most importantly, we believe here in an expanded definition of self, knowing that we're all connected to one another, not in a hierarchical way, but in a way that we are connected in this web of reality and liberation. Here at the kingdom, we don't just honor or tolerate each other's differences, but we know that we are stronger because of our differences, and we rise together. We rise together. And so every single one of our sessions works like this, so you know what to expect. We're together for about an hour, sometimes an hour and 15, sometimes an hour and a half. We'll be together for about an hour today. And we always begin with some form of art, so poem or music, some kind of a song, and then all lead us into a prayer. And all kind of channel and bring the prayer through for us today. But then I always give about 60 seconds of silence for you to welcome in your own personal prayer or set your own intention. So you can use a religious prayer, a spiritual prayer that you use, or just set an intention right from your heart for today's session of what it is that you're calling in and why it is that you're here. And then we jump in with our teaching. Like today, I have a special guest. Sometimes we have a special guest. Sometimes I teach on my own. And we always have a practice, a golden nugget, and a takeaway so that you can take the inspiration, take the teachings, and put them into your life. You know, there's many things that are different about this than church, obviously. Y'all know, who those of you who've been here know that we did a Lil Nas X episode. So there's a lot of things that are different here than church. But I think one of the most important elements is obviously we have God as optional here because we know that we call all of it by different names here, right? And this is a God optional service, meaning you can call it God, crystal, science, unicorns, whatever you want to call it. But we are coming here to celebrate connecting in with something greater, whatever that something greater is that we call it. And most importantly, is that one of the things that when I was growing up that I always felt was missing about church is how do you actually take this inspiration, take these concepts and put them into your life, like really put them into your life. And so my commitment to you here at the kingdom, and really in anything that I do, any of my programs and courses, you all know I say this all the time, is that there's a difference between these two things. There's a difference between conversations about change and conversations that change something. Now hear that, type that in. There's a difference between conversations about something and conversations that change something. Conversations about change, conversations about race, conversations about love, conversations about authenticity, and conversations that help us change something as it relates to those concepts. And so my commitment to you every time you sit with me, no matter where we are in the world and no matter what platform we're on, is that we have conversations not just about things, but conversations that change things. And today will be nothing short of that with my special guest. And so with all of that being said, let us dive in now to our prayer. Hands over your heart, if you will. God, Spirit, universe, all that is, all that ever has been, and all that ever will be, by whatever names it is that we choose to call it today in this space. May you be with us. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for reminding us to be our authentic, true selves. And thank you for showing us the moments when we're off track. We know that you bring us dis-ease and that feeling of out of alignment anytime that we're feeling off track. We know and we remember that that is a cue. That is a cue to take us back home to ourselves, to take us back to center. And thank you for bringing this community here for nearly 50 weeks strong, reminding us to come back home to ourselves, each and every one of us reminding each other. Thank you for the grace and the glory that is our lives. Thank you for giving us the capacity and the resilience to handle the ups and downs. And thank you, most importantly, for our health, our wealth, our happiness, our joy, our abundance that is forever unfolding and expanding in front of us as we step more and more onto our path of truth. Thank you. We are grateful. And so I invite you now to just think of a few things that you have to be grateful for today, in this moment. And start your personal prayer with that by just thinking of a few specific things you have to be grateful for. And I'll be silent now as you welcome in your gratitude and your personal prayer. God, Spirit, Universe, all that is, all that ever has been, and all that ever will be, by all the names that it goes by, we thank you. Thank you for bringing this community together far and wide from across the world, across this universe. Thank you for bringing us together in our differences. Thank you for holding us together, making us stronger in our strength and our weakness and everything in between. Thank you for our special guest today. Thank you for the technology that allows us to have this moment. And thank you for reminding us again and again to come back home to ourselves here at the Kingdom. So it is. Ashe, Aho, Salam, Shalom, Amen, Satnam, Awen, Om. Thank you. Here we are. Here we are. And I'm just like so grateful to be here with all of you right now in this moment. What a gift it is for us to be together. And before we actually begin our session and I bring in our special guest, I want to make one quick announcement that many of you have heard, but some of you have not heard it before, but I'm very excited because so many of you have already registered. So I want to bring up onto the screen right now to let you guys know and make sure you know that we are having an in-person event this summer in July. Our community is coming together for an in-person event this summer, July 23rd to 25th. It's a weekend retreat that we're doing together at Esalen Institute in Big Sur, California, in the Central Coast. You fly into San Francisco or San Jose or Oakland, and we're doing an event called Reclaiming Your Authentic Power. And what we're doing here is really breaking through all of the things that are holding us back from stepping into the true vision of our lives. And we're going to do this in person. Many of you have been doing this online with me for over a year. We're going to do this in person and break through in a whole new way. And this is going to help us really reset right here, halfway through the year, reset and step into the next chapter of what it is that we want to bring into our lives. And so I'm going to put information about this. I'm going to put the link in the chat box, but you can also just see more at esalen.org. That's ESALEN.org. And the reason why I'm doing this here, you guys have seen the only in-person events I've done this year have been at Esalen. It's because it is quite literally my favorite place on the entire planet. When I close my eyes and I think of going to a sacred space, I think about Esalen, and I put a couple pictures here by my friend Stephanie. It's one of the most magical places you will ever go. And they have some scholarships available. I'm not in charge of the scholarships. They have some scholarships available that you can apply on their website. You guys can even share rooms with one another and pod up with one another, and it makes the price go down. But just know that I already see there are so many of you have registered, and it's gonna feel so good to meet you all finally. And really right there at the 1-year anniversary of the Kingdom, we're gonna be right there together at Esalen. And so I really hope those of you who can and are able will join us for this incredible event. And today, I'm super excited about this session because we are talking about the power of authenticity. And I have a special guest with me today. Her name is Sara Agah Franti. And Sara is, I put her Instagram here as well, and Sara is amazing. I've had the absolute gift of getting to spend some time with her here and with her family here in Bali. I'm actually staying at her property here in Bali, Soul Shine in Bali right now. And many of you who've been following me on Instagram have seen some of the pictures. Their place is amazing, and no, I'm not getting paid or a free room or anything like that to post any of this stuff. I just am in love with this place. I was supposed to stay for 3 days and I've stayed for 2 weeks because I love it so much. These are pictures of me in the pool. I've been taking meetings and calls in the pool. Sara actually snuck that picture. And then this is another piece of the property just so you guys can see. It's just the most beautiful place that I've been. And I'm just gonna share one other quick video for those of you who haven't seen it. The place has a water slide. Look at this. So I've had so much fun being here. And so it's, just a great gift that I get to welcome Sara to the Kingdom as we talk about the power of authenticity. Listen up. Hey everybody, I'm so excited because I have a very special guest here. This is my last Bali guest before I leave.
Oh my gosh, what an honor.
I know, before I leave. So this is Sara Agah Franti. Isn't that a name? Sara Agah Franti. And I've been staying here at Sara and her husband, Michael Franti's place at Soul Shine here in Bali, which has just been beautiful. I know those of you who've been following me on Instagram have been seeing this, and I put some pictures in the beginning of this session for you all to see, those of you who are watching. And I'm super excited to talk to you because Sara is an entrepreneur. She worked for 10 years as an RN, has built so many different businesses, from jewelry to hotel lines to retreats to all these things that you've been doing in your life. Yeah. And I think one of the most important things is that Sara helps women really align to their values to live a fully empowered and authentic life. And if you're not a woman, don't worry. You can still get a lot out of this session. But I'm just saying that you do really work with women. But the piece about values and authenticity is so important to all of us.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how you decided that authenticity was one of the main things that you wanted to focus on.
Well, it's just going through the growing pains and having that realization and finding the comfort with myself. And it was by going through all these different professions and creating different projects and going through the ups and downs of learning and being in those moments of discomfort and trying to figure out how to break through them, how to go through the ebbs and flows. And what I realized not too long ago, actually, is that the greatest impact I can make in the world is by simply being myself. Mm-hmm. And I grew up in a family I grew up as a Baha'i in the Baha'i faith. And so philanthropy and giving back is a huge part. It's what gives you purpose in life. And so volunteering and always having a sense of service in whatever you do is always really important. But in my head, I always thought okay, to really make a difference, I have to be I can save the world, and I have to go out and do things for other people to actually make a difference. And
so that's interesting because that was ingrained in you from the beginning through the Baha'i faith. And for those of you who are not familiar with Baha'i, can you explain that a little bit to people?
Yeah, the Baha'i faith, it's an organized religion, and Baha'is believe that there is one God and all prophets come from one God. And some of the common principles, the values that I grew up with were unity and diversity, equality of men and women, elimination of extreme wealth and poverty. So, and everything is about giving back, and everything that you do is to serve the greater good.
Yeah. So it's interesting because what most of us think about when we think of this word service, right, is we think about just like having to go out and do something or volunteer and donate in this. And one of the things that I love, and I actually have it written down here from Sara, so it's like her main tagline. It says, "Your authenticity is your greatest act of service."
Yeah.
So explain what you mean by that. How is just being your real self an act of service?
Well, I mean, I think if you just go right to social media, for example, that's a really great, it's a really easy, tangible example that a lot of people can resonate, whether you're a man or a woman, or that it's, if you want to create sustainable, long-lasting impact, it begins with you, because it's a ripple effect.
Yeah.
And so again, it's this thing of, do I fly across an ocean to make a difference, or do I start in my home? And my husband and I, we say that change begins in the home. It's how you are with your children, how you are with your parents, how you are with your siblings, your neighbor, your community. And when you're an entrepreneur in this day and age, you're putting yourself in your brand oftentimes. And I was just getting so exhausted.
Yeah.
Because especially when Instagram came, you're like looking at everyone's accounts and you're like, I should be more like that person. I should be more like this person. And I was 100% guilty of it. I was doing it.
Comparing ourselves to other people.
I was trying to emulate people that they're not me, And so it wasn't sustainable. I was getting burnt out. I was feeling uninspired. I was feeling really down on myself.
Yeah.
And when I became a mom.
How old is your son?
My son's 2.5.
He's the cutest thing, y'all. I've been hanging out with him here a little
His
bit.
name's Taj.
Yeah, Taj is amazing.
I realized that I only have a certain capacity every day.
Yeah.
And so it really put things into perspective of where do I want to put my energy, my time, and some of that goes to my family, my son, my husband, my job, my career, and how do I want to show up in my work as an entrepreneur. And so I really had that, and I realized that it's like you just have to be you. Like, quit trying to be other people, quit trying to impress other people. And that's the number one feedback I get on my Instagram and on my social media and it's kind of funny actually, because people will say, Sara, I just love your Insta stories because you don't even put on makeup and you just go on there.
Well, look, we're here in a hoodie. Like, this is us here right now.
And you don't care what your hair looks like, and you just go on your Insta stories and you just talk to us and tell us what's going on in your life. And I was like, damn, like, that's amazing.
Isn't that amazing that is like a rare thing now?
Yeah.
Right? That like, because everybody's so done up and filtered and injected and whatever, all the things that we have. And you're just like, I'm just going on like this.
I'm just going on because I'm tired, man.
Yeah.
I woke up with my kid at 6 a.m. I have stuff to do. I have a to-do list I need to get done. And I don't have time to try to be anyone else.
Yeah.
It was the easiest thing. And I realized it was making the biggest impact and it feels good. But it took there's three things that I did and continue to do.
Perfect. Okay.
That allow me to live in my most authentic self.
All right. So number one.
Number one is to get clear on your values.
I'm so glad you're starting here, because when I was reading through all of your stuff on your website, I was really blown away by the amount of times that you talked about how important values were as it relates to authenticity. So let's break this down.
So getting clear on your values, and oftentimes your values are the core things that are most important to you. Sometimes I say, like, think about what breaks your heart. Because when you really think about that, it gets you closer and closer to understanding what those things are. And the way that you live in your values might change, but your values don't really change that much in your life. And then you declare your values.
So give me some examples. Like, what are some examples of a value? What are your values?
So my value is that I'm a warrior for justice. There's a dark side to that too, because when I see an injustice, I get really like crazy about it and I have to like shed light on it. But so that's one of my values. So justice in what I'm doing, justice in the world. And when you can declare that to other people, then you're giving them permission to support you and bring that awareness.
Yeah.
But then it also takes courage to live in those values.
Absolutely.
And what I realized is that the courage is actually within you.
Yeah.
And there was work that I had to do to be able to tap into that because you're going to be disappointing sometimes people around you because they're not going to understand your values because they're based on your own lived experiences.
This is something I want to pull a thread on a little bit here.
Yeah.
Because I think this is a big reason why so many of us can name our values, but we end up not. There's a difference between knowing your values and living your values.
Right.
Right? And I think so many of us abandon what we know to be really our values because we're afraid of what other people might think.
Yeah,
Or we're afraid of how they're going to show up. So is there any moment in your life, I'm sure there's many, but like one that sticks out to you that you can think of where you've really had to stand up for your values, where it was hard?
Yeah. And also not just people judging you, but just disappointing people, I think. And so a really great example is marrying my husband. That's a really good example.
I was hoping you were going to talk about this one, but I didn't. I was like, maybe she'll go somewhere else with it. So I was hoping.
That's a really good one. So my husband, it's funny, we're like looking at his album
he's
cover,
here.
right?
There's Michael.
That's his album, Sound of Sunshine.
That's funny.
We're actually in the room where Michael wrote Sound of Sunshine, which is cool. But, Michael is a artist. He is covered in tattoos. He has long dreadlocks. He didn't wear shoes for many, many years. He was definitely not the Persian engineer or doctor that maybe my parents envisioned me to marry. And honestly, maybe even me.
That you envisioned yourself to
I had some
marry.
sort of deep vision of what my future was supposed to look like to be the right way.
Yeah.
And then I met Michael, and he didn't check any of those boxes that culturally were right, but he checked the most important box, which is that he inspires me to be my best self. And so, we had to really fight for our relationship and for our love, and there was a lot of fear and judgment, and he's older than me. He's 18 years older than me, which ends up working out great. I'm like an old soul, he's like a young soul. So just stepping into that and really believing it.
Yeah.
What is a really good example.
Yeah,
of me.
and then you just having to really step in and say, this is something that I value. This is important to me. I don't care what my family thinks. I don't care what's around.
Right.
We're going for this.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I knew that his values were aligned with mine. They're not the same, but they're aligned.
Yeah.
And we inspire each other. And I think that's the most important thing. And when people talk about relationships and partnerships, it's never going to be perfect. There's no such thing. If anyone tells you their relationship is perfect, it's perfectly imperfect.
Yeah.
Okay? It's
They're lying. That means their relationship's actually really bad.
I didn't want to be that blunt. I'm like,
everything's perfect. It's like, oh, that means it's really bad.
I know. That means you're not passionate about anything. You're not arguing about anything.
Yeah.
So we always have a saying do you want to be right or do you want to be close? And so we always choose close. And so
hold on. That's I already know the community here. That is a quote. Everybody's going to type that in the chat box. I have never heard that before.
We write it in whenever we give wedding gifts, and we write them to our friends, we always say, or someone's like, what's your number one relationship advice? I would say, we would always say, it's when we argue, if one of us, we feel like our energies are just not connecting, we're like, look, I'm not feeling close. What do you need to do to feel close? Or if we're arguing with someone, it's I don't want to be right. I want to be close. What do you need to feel close? And 99.4% of the time, you say, I want to be close.
Right. Sometimes you're just no.
Sometimes you're like, no, I need to be right.
Do you want to be right or do you want to be close? This is relationships romantic. This is across political divides.
Totally.
This is social justice. This is the whole
Everything.
thing here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's huge. If we chose closeness, there would be more effort to just hold space for each other and listen and understand and communicate back. And so courage is the next thing, because as you
courage
said,
is
it's courage is number 2. And then 3 is self-compassion, which is something I never had.
I'm growing that so much still.
So much. It's changed my life. I did a self-compassion course only 2 years ago, and I took it because... So me and Michael have been married for 6 years. He's a touring musician. He was gonna go on the biggest tour of his life. And I was like, look, I know it's gonna be stressful. I don't wanna get into petty arguments. And so I was like, let's go to marriage counseling just to tighten up the ship a little bit. And the marriage counselor said, I think you guys should both take a self-compassion course. It would really benefit you. I didn't even know what this was. I always heard the word self-care, which is completely different than self-compassion.
Yeah, explain.
So I signed up for this 8-week course. Michael, by the way, did not do it.
Was this the Tar Brock? No.
No, this is Christine Neff's program.
Christine Neff's program. That's
Christine
great.
Neff,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. Perfect.
So,
okay,
and there's facilitators all over the world who facilitate her curriculum. But basically, self-compassion is the practice of not judging yourself, and also this understanding of common humanity, which helped me so much. I'm Persian, I'm an Aries, I'm fiery, I'm rammy. If something pissed me off, if there was an injustice, I couldn't sleep at night. It would just fire me up so much. But then when I did this course, and I understand it's we all have pain, we all are hurting, and it's not that you're trying to bypass what's going on, but it's to have more empathy and compassion. And then also with self-compassion, you're bringing down your nervous system.
Right.
So there's the theory that we're all kind of vibrating up here.
Yeah.
And we don't need to be vibrating up here anymore. So many of us are in fight or flight, and we don't even realize it. And through a meditation practice, you can bring your nervous system down, so then you're less triggered. So it doesn't mean that you're not going to get angry. Feeling angry is
just when something
fine.
happens, you're not already on the edge.
You're not on the edge.
Yeah.
You're going to have time and space to think about what you want to say, and you're going to be more resilient. So you can feel anger. You're allowed to feel angry. You're allowed to feel sad. But you can come back from it so much quicker. And that's what I realized through COVID is true hell. So I do this self-compassion course thinking we're going to go on this huge tour. We come to Bali to do a retreat. And as we're here, the whole world locks down and the tour gets canceled. But we go into the most stressful time in our lives because every single business we had, we were in the business of creating community.
Yeah, in person,
bringing people
events,
together,
music tours, like everything.
Speaking through our nonprofit, hotel, everything shut. And it was so stressful. But I was able to lean on that. And I didn't lose a single night of sleep.
Wow.
Until a year later, which I feel like now I have to tap back into my meditation. And I'm just being honest here. Like, once you do it, it's not perfect. It's always a practice. But for the first 8 months into it, it's like I didn't lose a single night of sleep because I just felt so calm.
Yeah.
And anytime I felt myself going up, I would just drop into like a loving kindness meditation, you know, and it just felt so good because I felt more in control.
Yeah.
And you're able to just like, so then it's kind of like this whole cycle, like go back to your values.
Have the
Tap
courage.
to courage. Be kind to yourself because it's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And I'm like a recovering perfectionist, I guess.
This is really good. So I love this kind of 3-part cycle that we're seeing. So I'm really curious. I want you all to type into the chat box right now. What are some of your values? Let's just type some of those in right now and see what they are. I'm thinking of some of my values. So this is going to be an interesting, like, I've always tried to frame this and I've never tried to say it out loud. So one of my values is actually giving myself the freedom to enjoy my life. That's become like a really strong value to me as somebody who has been like a chronic overachiever, overworker, and you know, that kind of stuff. And the reason why I say that is like, for example, today, as you saw online, I had 2 cinnamon rolls at this place, right? And like before I was like, oh, I'm not supposed to eat that, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, you know what? Like one of my values is to enjoy. Like I want to enjoy the experience of this life. And right now I want these cinnamon rolls and like I really want them. It's going to bring me this experience of joy. It doesn't mean that I overindulge all the time, but like I come back to that value all the time.
That's amazing.
And it actually takes me courage because it goes against everything I've ever been told or taught myself of what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
So values, what are some of yours? And then we'll see them in the chat box. And then we won't see them right now. She won't see them in the chat box, but y'all know what's going on. So then the second thing is around courage. So I'm wondering for you to think about as you try to bring these values into your life, not just think about them, but live them. What are some of the things that you're going to have courage to step into? Is it your family? Is it your own mind? Is it societal norms? What are the things that are going to cause you to utilize your courage to step forward into it? I talked about, for me, it was, you know, just everything that I've ever told myself was important. Even coming to Bali for a month. Was like so major. I've never taken this much time.
And some people might be like, you're being irresponsible. You have too many commitments. I mean, you've pulled some all-nighters.
I have pulled some all-nighters here.
So it's huge, like that intention. And also think about, I think it's important as you think about that courage, it's also acknowledge, like, who are you afraid of disappointing by taking that step? And identifying that. Because I think sometimes when you don't put words, like deep down inside you know, but you're afraid to actually put words to it or actually acknowledge it, because then it becomes truth. But I think that's really important.
To be really honest with yourself about that. And then that's the part that leads us to the self-compassion.
So I have a great practice, actually, for your audience for self-compassion.
Let's do it.
Okay, so you can close your eyes. If you're watching, you can close your eyes.
Right, I'm going to do it with y'all.
Okay.
Ouch.
So think about something that is causing you a little bit of discomfort right now. Is it maybe you didn't work out when you've made the commitment to work out every day? Is it an argument maybe that you've had with someone? Is it an email that you haven't answered yet? So something that's just kind of nagging on you. It doesn't have to be anything big or too serious, but just bring that to mind. And then if you had a friend who was dealing with that issue or problem, what would be the advice, or what would be the advice that you'd give back to them? So think about what would be the words that you would share with them to make them feel better about what's happening. So now, compare that to the voices of what you were telling yourself about that problem. Isn't that interesting? I mean, I can tell by your facial expression. You already know it's different.
It's so different.
So 76% of people are actually harder on themselves than they are with they're kinder to their friends than they are to themselves.
I know I am.
So
yeah.
that's something that
I'm an asshole to myself.
Right. And
oh
so
my
that's
God.
a great practice where if I'm really upset about something, I'm like, what would I tell my best girlfriend about this?
Yeah.
And then you say it to yourself. So that was a quick one. I mean, it'd probably take a little bit more time to drop in deeper on that, but that's a quick practice.
I want to see what you guys say here. Like, type in a couple of things. You can type in, this is what I would have said to myself, and this is what I would have said to my friends, and see what the difference is inside of that voice. And I did feel like there was so much kindness in the voice. There was so much forgiveness. There was so much grace, you know,
compassion,
total compassion for what I was saying. So, okay, there was something else I wrote down that I want to make sure that we don't skip. So, I love this piece that you talk about that says, I'm reading some stuff from all the different things that I pulled from Sara's work. So, you say, specifically you were talking about women, but I think this applies to everybody. From the time we are young, the world had so much to say about who we should be and how we must show up as mothers, wives, daughters, and sisters in our own lives. Undoing a lifetime of these shoulds to uncover your authentic self is hard work. It's messy and it can be lonely. You're not alone, though. We're in this work together. I think that's beautiful.
Thanks.
And the elements that I want to pull the thread on a little bit is the shoulding. One of my mentors always says, we got to stop shooting on ourselves.
And other people.
Stop shitting on people. And then the other piece of it around community.
Yeah.
Because I know this is a big aspect of your work, and it's a part that a lot of us in our personal growth skip. We're alone, especially the pandemic. We're reading books. We're listening to podcasts. We're doing all this stuff in a silo. So the should and the community, and help me see how that helps us change.
Well, so the should thing too is I'm actually hypersensitive now to the word should. Now when people even use it on me, I'm like, should I though? Like, should I?
You should do this. Should I? Okay.
So that one was a hard one for me because, again, the culture that I grew up in, and also I was a middle child. I'm an overachiever. I was like trying to be the valedictorian. You know, like everything had.
We were the same. We would have been battling each other in high school.
You know, you get like 90%. You go home and your family's like, okay, but next time
you're
gonna get the
95.
why is it 100?
I always tell people this story. This is how ridiculous, y'all. In college, I paid to go to summer school to retake a class because I had a B+.
Oh my God.
Retook a class. I went to summer school. What? I think back to my younger self. I wish somebody would have shook me and said, go have fun.
I know.
Like, were you kidding me?
I know. And don't get so stressed. I know.
Oh my God. Anyway, okay. So
that's like a big thing for me. And then also I went through this whole period where I was questioning my femininity, and like I actually did this course with Marianne Williamson.
Which one?
I did the Aphrodite training.
Oh, I've heard good things about this one.
It was actually an accident. So it's a really funny story.
Okay.
So I just gotten married. I'm Canadian. My husband's American. So the moment we got married, I started my green card application, but you're not allowed to leave the country until you get permission. So he was touring, and I was getting cabin fever, and I was alone. And so a girlfriend of mine who I really respected was like, I'm going to LA for Marianne Williamson's training. You should come. You should.
Right.
And I didn't know who Marianne Williamson was. I just knew she had run for governor. That's all I had known. And being a Canadian, like I was barely even tapped into that.
Yeah.
But there was her and a bunch of other women who I really respected, who I knew. And I was like, okay, it'll be just good for me. And you step out of my comfort zone and go do this thing. So I paid for it. And I mean, it's an investment, which is great. I mean, and I book a hotel, and I'm in Beverly Hills. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I go on a Friday evening, and I check in, and I get my gift bag, and I'm like, where are all the dudes? Like, I was like, what is, like, I had no idea. I didn't even read the description. I just signed up.
You just trusted your friend.
I just trusted.
Yeah.
And I go in, and I sit down, and it gets really dark. And all of a sudden the song goes, this girl is on fire. Hey. And Marianne comes out wearing this like real like sparkling. And I'm like, where the F? What did I just sign up for? Ended up being the best thing ever because it really tuned into, so if you're not familiar with Marianne's work, she believes that as women, we have different goddesses. And so there's the Athena, the Artemis, the Aphrodite, who's the lover, the Athena is the doer, Artemis is the mother. And every goddess has a shadow and a light. And no goddess goes away, but the shadow of one goddess can overpower the light of another. So often as women, we're so tapped into our masculine, our Athena, because we're trying to get things done and show up and prove ourselves, that the darkness of the Athena overshadows the light of the Aphrodite. So we kind of like lose touch of our feminine, just kind of goes to sleep. So being a newlywed, it was awesome because she was explaining like how for women you need 30 minutes to like switch roles. And things like water or changing your clothes or lighting a candle, something ceremonial to make that switch is very important. I thought that was a really good awareness.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah.
It's very, very interesting.
Especially if you're trying to switch from like businesswoman, like mom taking care of everything to like welcome home.
Totally. Yeah. Or if you're working as at home all the time and you're with the kids all the time and then your partner comes home and now you have to move into like lover mode. And it's really important to acknowledge that. And that's why I think sometimes there's this like we have this internal conflict where we're not quite sitting right in ourselves because we're not giving our space to change our roles. So anyways, so what I'm trying to say is I went through this big conflict of like, oh, I'm not feminine enough. I'm too masculine. My voice is too loud. I speak too loudly, blah, 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 all this stuff. And am I doing enough tea ceremonies? Am I wearing enough flowy clothes? And again, I wasn't being my authentic self, and I was just so burnt out. I was like, fuck
Exhausting.
it. I don't even know if I can say the F word.
Yeah, you can say any
word
word on here. Yeah,
I was just
totally.
like, screw this. I'm like, I'm just going to be myself. And I wrote myself actually a little love letter. It's on my website.
Wow.
And it says, my strength can be my sweetness. I can be strong, and that can be my sweetness. And I just resigned to that, where I'm like, I'm done trying to fit the mold of feminine, because I felt like as an industry, it was really hot. Like 3 years ago, you had to do certain things to tap into your feminine self. So all of these things, like you should be a doctor, you should marry this person, you should be this to be more feminine. I was just kind of over it. I was over it.
Yeah.
The problem, though, is that, and I think this is why so many of us love yoga studios, is because there's community. But the biggest thing is, again, and I think generationally, you don't air your dirty laundry, particularly in my culture, too, in Persian culture. So you couldn't be your authentic self. And one day, I went to Glide Church. Are you familiar with Glide?
I am familiar with Glide in San Francisco, yeah.
So I grew up super religious. I would pray and meditate and everything. And then in my early 20s, I went through something where I had to like re-identify with who I was in the world. And so I moved to America and I wasn't tapped into a community there. And I was telling my girlfriend on the phone, I'm like, I really miss just being part of a community, a spiritual community. And Michael comes home from tour that night. It's 1 a.m. and he goes, hey, it's Sunday tomorrow. Let's go to Glide. And I was like, I don't want to go to a church that tell me I have to like believe in something to be saved. Like I'm just not in the mood. And he's like, no, Sara, it's different. I promise.
Yeah,
so I was like,
amazing.
Well, I literally just put it out to the universe. I have to say yes. So we go and we're in this church. It's in the Tenderloin in San Francisco. You have every kind of person who exists in the world sitting in the pews, and they invite someone from the community to do the morning prayer. And this man comes up, and everyone's holding hands, and he gets on the mic and he says, I've been sober for 60 days, and this is a really hard week, and I need you guys to pray for me. And I just got goosebumps right now. But I was like, yes, this is community where you can show up in your highs and in your lows, and they will hold you, and they won't judge you, and they will like be there for you.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to create in my social media platform. And that's what we're trying to create in this hotel when we host retreats. And that's what Michael does at his shows.
Yeah.
And that's what it's like, come as you are.
Yeah.
Come and tell me what you're going through, because I'm here to support you to be your best self. And if it has to get ugly before it can get good.
Yeah, I just posted something on Instagram. I said, sometimes ruin is the road to transformation.
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes things just have to break down so that we can break through.
Yeah.
And I love this element of community, because community is like, I think it feels foreign to a lot of us right now. Like my first time in a yoga studio, in a yoga class in a year and a half was just here while I was here in Bali. And like, I was thinking, my God, I used to do this 3 or 4 days a week.
Yeah.
And now it's like, and I didn't feel community there because it was my first time in the studio, but like thinking of what that feels like as we're stepping back into the world as we consider whatever post-COVID, if that even is a thing, like how we step in and what communities we want to step back into, because we've almost had a reset.
Yeah. And
right?
how are they serving you? Like, who do you want to be in the world? What do you want to be provoked in you and fired up in you? And totally. And I think for anyone who's watching, who's working to create community, to really think about that.
Yeah.
Like, think about the openness that you're creating, the expectations that you're creating, and how you're supporting the people in your community.
Yeah. I love this idea of really consciously thinking of, because a lot of us say, oh, I don't have people that support me, or I don't have people who are like me. I don't have people. And like, I know here at the Kingdom, we've built this amazing community, but even still, we're all over the world, you
Right.
know? So how do we start to, as we step back into the world, think, what kind of community do I want to be a part of?
Yeah.
Not what you have been a part of,
Right.
not what you think you should be a part of, not
Yeah.
what is the cool thing to be a part
Yeah.
of. What is really going to feed you and your growth? There's one more thing, and I love this because here at the Kingdom, and you haven't heard me do this, but at the start of every single session, I go through our belief statements.
Yeah.
And on your website, you have your belief statements, which I thought were super beautiful. And I just want to read to you because I think you all are going to find this really beautiful from Sara's belief statement. So she says, I believe that in a world that demands you to be so many things, the most important thing you can be is your authentic self. So there's one belief. I believe that the only way you can truly be your authentic self is to understand the deepest values that drive you. And so we covered that today, right? I believe it's hard work to live according to those values, but you have the courage within you to do it. There's step 2. I'm seeing all the steps in here now that I'm going step by step. Number 3, I believe that who you are is constant. This is the one I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Who you are is constantly evolving, and you need to be prepared to let go of old identities to become who you are now and be nice to yourself along the way. So there's some compassion there.
Yeah.
But there's also the letting go.
Yeah.
This is a massive thing because the way that you frame this is so many of us, we have this vision for our lives of what we thought our life is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And we're not taking into account how we've changed or grown along the path.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for people when they're trying to grow and evolve and let go? This is hard.
Well, I think the first
really
thing,
hard.
yeah, it is really hard. And I think the first thing is to be open to asking for help. And it also leans into what we were just talking about, which is community.
Yeah.
So an example is now as a woman entrepreneur, it's actually a very lonely place to be because oftentimes there's a little bit of competition. You don't want to disclose about what's going on in your business. During COVID, is it good? Is it bad? How's it going? And so I literally was meeting with someone and I actually literally like voiced it. And I was like, I need to find community with other women entrepreneurs that I can just be really honest with.
Yeah.
And I asked for it a few times and then all of a sudden like a WhatsApp group shows up and it's 8 women and we show up and there's like a charter and there's a confidentiality agreement.
Wow, that's amazing.
But I think that's like the first thing is like, one, it's surrounding yourself with people who are open to that, to those values too. I think that's really important. And I think that's why sometimes when you're growing and changing, there's people who come in and out of your life.
Yeah.
And that can be really hard too, because you question like, am I a bad person that I'm not as close to that person anymore? And it could be for a number of reasons. Maybe you guys are just on different paths. Maybe they don't understand that growth is okay, that you're changing the way you see the world is changing.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing with letting go, because we're always going to have that voice in our head, is surrounding yourself with people who support it.
Yeah.
I think that's really big.
No, this is big. So like the 2 elements, there was like so many but I'm feeling this because I'm experiencing this in my life in a lot of ways right now. And one of the things is who has to get let go of for you to actually step into the next chapter and having compassion for yourself and for the other person. Because sometimes we have to make the other person a villain for us to let go of them versus just to really say, this is not what's serving.
Right.
You know?
They're a great person.
They're great. I bless them.
And I can bring someone else in my life who's like firing me up to go on this new project, a new venture, opening my eyes up to a new idea, new experience, and like meditate on that and hold space in your heart for that. And if you're not changing, what's the fun in life that? Like, God,
I know. I always think of that. Like, you know, anyway, I was going to say something, but I'm not going to say it actually. What I'm thinking of is, you know, I think one of the values, this goes back to one of my other values, is like one of my values is constant growth and transformation. Yeah. You know, just like constantly working to evolve and grow. It doesn't always have to be hard, but just like really making yourself better. You know, in different ways.
And you know what helps with that? And this may sound cliche to some of you, but a gratitude practice.
Oh, that's the one practice I do other than meditation, it's the one practice I do every day.
I'm telling you guys, like I thought that it was all like bullshit. Yeah. Like, and I remember when I first got married to Michael and I'd get all fiery and he'd be like, Sara, tell me 3 things you're grateful for. And I was basically like, that's code for like, calm down. Like basically like check yourself. You're like, I'm not gonna That's exactly it. And I'd be like, I know what you're trying to do here and it's not working. And the self-compassion course opened that up in me. And again, what got us through got me through COVID was a gratitude practice.
Yeah.
Because I could have totally just felt sorry for myself, been pissed off at the world, been pissed off at like, you know, like we had retreats cancel and people were in their own fear and we were like refunding tons of money out of, you know, like that we necessarily didn't have, like all these things. And I was just like, you know what? I'm so grateful that I had this time with my partner who normally is traveling half the year on a tour bus. I'm so grateful that Taj, my son, gets to live like, so we're just like leaning on this gratitude practice, and it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
So I have not invested in a gratitude journal.
I write them in my phone.
But yeah, it's like, I just think about when things get tough, I think like, well, what is the good in it? And so even when you think about change, like maybe you thought your life was going to look a certain way and it looks the complete opposite because someone didn't show up the way that you were hoping that they would, or a job fell through, or something.
Or a pandemic hit.
And
canceled all your shit.
But there has to be something in there.
Yeah. There always is.
There always is. And
This is
coming.
so beautiful.
Thanks.
You are amazing.
Aw,
I
thanks.
love this woman so much.
I was so excited. I mean, that you asked me to be part of this.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I think it, you know, if there, oh, you know what? I skipped your last value.
Oh.
That was on your site. It says, this I love. I believe we all have the ability and responsibility to positively impact the lives of others, and that your authenticity is your greatest act of service. That's it. And really, like you said, I know somewhere else in your work you say, like, really coming to know and understand yourself sometimes is the hard road, but it always makes the biggest difference and really pays off.
Yeah.
And so, you know, our blessing to you all is that this helps you. I know everybody listening is having that one thing that you're thinking about, or those few things that have popped up for you that you want to understand how to take to the next level. So let's just take a quick moment right now together. And everybody place your hands over your heart. Close your eyes if you're willing. You can keep them open if you need to, or if it's not safe to close them. And take a full deep breath in and a deep breath out. And this is the moment in our session where we do our golden nugget practice. So think of the one main takeaway that you want to take from today's session. If there was only one thing that you could remember, and that one thing that you could bring into your life, what would the one thing be? And just think about it a few times. It takes between 20 and 30 seconds to commit something into the long-term memory, so just let it repeat in your mind. And then the commitment that we make to ourselves here is the same every week, is that each of us is like a ripple in the pond, but with enough ripples, it becomes a wave. And so we commit that we'll share this one golden nugget with somebody in our life today, whether it's your kids or your partner or a friend, or posting about it on social media. And it's not about you teaching anything, it's just about sharing something that you've experienced and learned about yourself from Sara today, or even from each other in the chat box. And then open your eyes and type your golden nuggets into the chat. I think my golden nugget was really big is, do you want to be right or do you want to be close? Do you want to be right or do you want to be close?
A lot of,
Woo!
even with your like team and
I'm literally going to be quoting you on that forever. Just by the way, I'm going to be using that in so many things. You're going to see your like
That
name
makes
with
me
quotes on
happy.
like everything. That's amazing. And also the second one, even though I always tell people not to have two golden nuggets, my second one really was about the courage piece. Because it really does. Like, it is the easy road to just truck along and keep things the same and not talk about what you really feel and avoid it and not set boundaries and not try to disappoint people. But I think, you know, there's this beautiful quote by a woman, her name is Oriah something, and she says, like, you know, I want to know that you will not betray your own soul so that you don't disappoint another. And like, that is what we really want to be committed to, is truth. Is there any last message you want to leave our community with here?
Just that I love you.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
and
what
that,
I was
and that you got this.
Yes.
And that you have community here. So
Yeah. You guys have, so here's what I'm going to say. You have to come to Soulshine in Bali. I was supposed to stay here for 3 days. I've been here for 2 weeks.
Has it been 2 weeks?
Yes, I've been here for 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh, it's been so long.
I've been here for 2 weeks.
It's we're located in Ubud, Bali.
Yeah.
and I'm sure you'll put it somewhere.
I'm gonna put it. Yeah, I'll put all the. You'll have everything. You'll have the
when you're
links
ready,
and
when you're
everything.
ready to get on an airplane, we're
Yeah.
here waiting for you guys with open arms.
Yeah,
so.
and I'm putting the intention out in the universe. I almost said I promise, but I'm not gonna say promise because we don't know what the hell's happening in the world. But I'm putting an intention to the universe that I'm gonna bring our community here, and we're gonna do an event
Yes.
here at Soulshine
I
because.
was gonna just put the words in your mouth.
Yeah, no, I am because this place is just magic, and we'll come here.
Well, we can't wait to have you guys
Yeah.
here and
All
have
right.
you back.
Yes. All right. I love you all so much. Mwah. Thank
Mwah.
you, Sara.
You're welcome.
Everybody, everybody, everybody. How good was that? I mean, come on. Do you want to be right or do you want to be close? I'm literally never forgetting that in my life. You know, when you hear something that you like, that is going to be going through my head for the rest of my life. I want to thank you all so much for showing up today for the kingdom. And I want to make sure that you all remember Sara's name and how to spell her name, Sara Agah Franti. There's her Instagram right there at the bottom. You can also look up Soulshine, the retreat center that I'm staying at for some of the events that they have coming up. And I already made my promise. Well, I didn't make a promise, but I have a really good feeling we're going to be here together as a community sometime in the next year or so. The property is just so incredible, and it would be the biggest honor of my life to bring you all and hold sacred space with you all here. And so this is the power of authenticity. The power of truly being the best, the realest, the most true version of ourselves, even as that evolves over time and we change. I want to thank you, Kingdom family, for being here with me today, for being here with me and Sara. I love you, and I'll meet you right here in this special place next Sunday. Mwah. Bye for now, everybody.